Hello everybody and welcome back to Shelf Indulgent. My name is Devin and today I want to start out with a little apology for you guys. I have not been uploading videos as quickly as I would like to be. Unfortunately, life has been a little bit crazy these last few weeks. Harry and I have started the process of buying a home, so the majority of my free time is going towards that house hunt and looking at houses online and looking at houses in person and thinking about houses and thinking about mortgages and all of those really super fun things. So that also means I haven't read as much lately either. But I do have a January wrap up for you guys today, so we'll just get right into it. These books are in no particular order, but I did read 8 books in January. Again, not that many, but life's been a little crazy, so I'm not going to beat myself up over it. First up is Madame Zero by Sarah Hall. This is a collection of 9 short stories, which are all kind of themed with transformations. This book was really good. I read the whole thing in one day. I gave this 4 stars, I believe. I will give you just a little content warning. The last book, or the last story in this book, gets super sexual, which I was not anticipating. So if that's something you have a problem with, you should definitely not read this. But I really enjoyed it. I loved the whole book. 4-star read for me. Next up is The Story of a Shipwrecked Sailor by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Many of you know Gabriel Garcia Marquez. He is a beloved Colombian author. He typically writes fiction and is well known for his magical realism, I believe. I have never read any of his fiction. This is my first book by him. I actually picked this one up because it's been on my to be read for years. I've literally had this copy on my shelf for probably 3 years now. And I just realized that the ship in this story actually leaves from Mobile, Alabama, which is where I live and where I was born and raised. I thought it would be very interesting to get a glimpse of Mobile in 1955, particularly from the perspective of someone in Colombia. I didn't quite get what I wanted out of this book, but it did not disappoint. While Mobile, Alabama is definitely not a focal point, really, of this story, it was a fantastic book. It's a short little thing. I read it in one day. But the basic premise is there is a ship that leaves from Mobile, Alabama to, I believe it's going to Bogota, Colombia, and it sinks in the Gulf. And the crew does not survive, with the exception of one man. This one man is at sea for 10 days, and this is kind of his story. He then related the story to Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who worked at the El Espectador newspaper in Bogota. And Gabriel Garcia Marquez originally published these as weekly columns in this newspaper in 1955 to tell this man's story. And obviously now it's been bound up all together in a book, and it is amazing. I, as a reader, nothing about the story of a shipwrecked sailor really should have spoken to me. I am not like into that as a setting, as, you know, a story. Didn't really even like the movie Castaway, guys, but this book was absolutely beautiful. I now understand why people love Gabriel Garcia Marquez so much, and I'm definitely putting his fiction on my to be read. 100%. This was a 4-star read for me. Highly recommend. The next book I have for you guys is Stranger Things Happen by Kelly Link. I am really, really sad to report that I was slightly disappointed in this book. I think I did myself a disservice by reading Kelly Link's works backwards. So I started with her newer work and moved towards her older works. And to me, this one just didn't feel as strong as some of her newer stuff. It's still very much Kelly Link. It's still a very good collection of short stories. I just felt like every story didn't speak to me. And that's how I felt with her previous collections that I've read. I ended up giving this one 3 stars, but I appreciated it as a collection of short stories. Next up, I have a graphic novel for you guys, and it's actually 2 volumes, and that is Curse Words by Charles Soule with art by Ryan Brown. I won't go into this one too much because I've already spoken about this one in several videos. I also don't want to spoil any plot lines for anybody because this is volume 2 and 3 of the series. so I won't go into that. This is a very campy fantasy series. We follow our protagonist, Wizard, who is actually not featured on either of these covers. But we follow him as he arrives in New York City and kind of learns about Earth and battles other wizards over the New York sky, basically. It's super campy, but super, super fun. I absolutely loved these. Next up, we have one of my favorites of the year, and that is The Girl in the Tower by Katherine Arden. Again, got this one from the library, so sorry about the glare, guys. This is the second book in the Winter Night trilogy by Katherine Arden. Seeing that it is a sequel, I won't go too far into the plot because I don't want to ruin anything for those of you who haven't read the first book. But I will say in this book, we continue to follow our protagonist, Garcia, in a fantasy medieval Russian setting. I absolutely love this book. I gave this one 5 stars, and I immediately picked up the third book from the library. That one just came out a few weeks ago. If you haven't read this series yet, do yourself a favor and pick it up. It is fantastic. Next up is another 5-star read, and that is Aquicorn Cove by Katie O'Neill. Those of you who've been watching my videos know that I read Tea Dragon Society last year by Katie O'Neill and absolutely loved it. I think I love this one even more. In this story, we follow Lana as her and her father go back to their seaside hometown after a huge storm has hit. And I just feel like this is one of the most pure, wholesome books I have ever read. But it also tackles some really deep issues, especially for a children's graphic novel. But it does it in such a heartwarming and touching way. And of course, the artwork is just amazing. It is fantastic. I loved this so much. 5 stars, and I cannot wait for Katie O'Neill to write more. I need so much more of this in my life. The last book that I have for you guys, I have a whole lot of thoughts on. I was originally supposed to read this book with my brother as a buddy read, but he did not read it. So I'm going to need you guys to help me work out how I feel about this book. So those of you who've read it, get ready. The book that I'm talking about is Autonomous by Annalee Newitz. This book is set on Earth in the year 2144, and in it we follow 2 narratives. The first narrative is Jack, who is a Robin Hood-esque drug pirate who is stealing the formula for life-saving drugs and giving them to the poor. And the second is a group. It is a man named Elias and a bot named Paladin who are both hunting Jack down because what she's doing is illegal and it's their job to find her. So the problem for me comes in, and it's very hard to talk about this without spoiling the book for you guys who haven't read it, but my big issue is Elias as a character. I didn't like him, but honestly, a dislikable character isn't a problem for me. My problem with Elias as a character is I felt like he did so many things wrong. In particular, a lot of homophobic things. I felt like he was just kind of forgiven in the end, and he never changed or grew, or I don't know. For those of you who have read it, put your thoughts in the comments below, please. Am I being too difficult? Am I asking for too much? I just felt like the other characters were so strong, specifically Paladin, were so strongly written. And I couldn't quite understand this redemption arc that Elias has that never even really happened. I don't get it. Am I missing something? I originally gave it 4 stars. I've bumped it down to 3 stars now. It may even be 2 stars now. I just feel like the longer I sit with this one, the less I like it. But, you know, it happens sometimes, guys. Those are all the books that I read in January. I hope you guys had a great reading month in January. Be sure to comment below. Tell me what you read. Tell me your thoughts on these books if you've read them. Love to hear from you guys. As always, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye!